I can't.
Maris, can you see the screen?
I'm just seeing your headshot right now.
Yeah, I wanna make sure
Okay,
at
you're
things,
not.
because I know there's all kinds of.
So I think
Details
let's
around what they.
see if we can do.
It's compostable,
All right, so let's go back to this.
so.
Because I think. All right.
Okay, Jill needs to be in the meeting, so let's get
And
Jill
that
in the
would be
meeting
really
first.
important for place to place. Folks wouldn't, you know.
Jill, I can just invite you.
Unmuted?
And if you could just project your voice, that'd be great.
Great, sure. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. This is the April 16th meeting of the Santa Monica Groundwater Sustainability Agency. It's called to order. Time is 9 a.m. And with that, we'll go to item number 2, the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone can stand. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And with that, let's go to item number 3, the roll call and determination of quorum.
Thank you, Chair. If I may, I suggest that we take items a little bit out of order this morning and swear in our newest alternate board member, and then we can go to the roll call.
Absolutely, let's do that.
Thank you. So, Mr. Dishlip, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand and repeat after me.
I, Christopher Dishlip,
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution
of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
That I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
And I do further swear that I do not advocate,
And I will further swear that I do not advocate,
nor am I a member of any party or organization,
nor am I a member of any party or organization,
political or otherwise,
political or otherwise,
that now advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States
that now advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States
or the state of California
or the state of California
by force or violence or other unlawful means.
by force or violence or other unlawful means.
That within the 5 years immediately preceding the taking of this oath,
That within the 5 years immediately preceding the taking of this oath,
I have not been a member of any party or organization,
that I have not been a member of any party or organization,
political or otherwise,
political or otherwise,
that advocated the overthrow of the government of the United States or the state of California
that advocated the overthrow of the government of the United States or the state of California
by force or violence or other unlawful means,
by force or violence or other unlawful means,
and that during such time as I hold the office as a board member of the Santa Monica Sub-Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency,
During such.
during such time as I hold the office of,
as a board
as a
member
board member
of the Santa Monica
of,
GSA,
of the Santa Monica GSA,
I will not advocate
I will not advocate
nor become a member of any party or organization,
or advocate or become a member of any party or organization,
political or otherwise,
political or otherwise,
that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States
that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States
or the state of California by force or violence or other unlawful means.
or the state of California by force or violence or other unlawful means.
Thank you very much. You are now GSA board member.
Hey, Jane.
Yes.
We are not seeing a visual of everyone at the meeting.
So can everybody hear us? Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask, first, when did this become?
You all were sworn in.
Oh.
With this?
Yes.
Wow, I blocked
It
it
was,
out.
you blocked that. Yeah, it was virtual. You're right, Robert.
We'll put it up on the screen.
I did, yes, I put it
That
on.
would've been easy.
Sorry.
That was what I was going to say next, maybe send it or put it up, so.
Yeah,
people
certainly.
Not another minute.
But you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Very much appreciate it.
Secret handshake now.
That's
Hold on.
right.
Here we go.
So we will now take roll call. Director Welsh,
Here.
Director Singletary.
Here.
Director Natoli.
Here.
Our newest member, Director Dishlip.
Here.
And our President Nguyen.
Here.
Great, we have a full quorum, and appreciate that roll call.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to item number 4, disclosure of ex parte communications from board members. Does any board member have anything to report? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 6, which are consent items. 6A is approval of meeting minutes from October 16, 2024. Any discussion from the board members?
I had a correction, section 7C. These are minor typographical errors, I think. Looks like Susan Cola's name was misspelled. It's S-A-N Cola. That was it.
Thank you.
Sorry, give me one moment. The PDF crashed because it's such a big file. Apologies. Why is it doing this? Okay.
So do we want to take these together as a motion?
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and get any comments on 6B as well, and then we can make a motion for both. The director will.
And on page, well, PDF page 16, page 3 of those, of the minutes, section F, mid paragraph, it's referring to information that I shared and then references Director Singleton. I think that was my follow-up on that reference.
Great. We will make that correction.
And sorry, who was that speaking?
So that is Director Welsh speaking.
Okay, perfect. I'll change that to Director Welsh. Sorry.
That's okay. So do we have a, yes?
Yeah,
Director
and
Singletary.
sorry, I really looked at these this time. This is, we're talking about February, right?
Pardon me?
We're talking about
Yes.
February minutes, yeah.
Correct.
E, it says City of Beverly Hills.
Only have one hill.
And then the next section, G, it also says Beverly Hills.
Yes, we will correct that to Director Welsh, and then you, Director Singletary,
And-
as City of Culver City.
Well, I meant that it was actually just misspelled.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
It says
Yeah.
hill, not
Okay.
hills,
Got it.
plural.
And then 8A, my name is spelled wrong. The E and the L are transposed. That's it.
Thank you.
Sorry, and that was 8A.
Correct.
Okay. And sorry, that was Director Welsh speaking again.
That was Director Singletary.
Okay, sorry. It's hard to
That's
tell.
I didn't identify myself, sorry.
No worries. Thank you so much.
So do we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes as amended?
This is Director Natoli, so moved.
Seconded.
Great. So the motion was made by Director Natoli and seconded by President Nguyen. Yes,
Their vote.
Yes.
Or,
roll call vote.
roll call. vote.
Yeah, so Director Singletary,
Aye.
Director Welsh,
Yes.
Vice President Bishop,
Yes.
President Nguyen,
Yes.
Director Natoli.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes. And our next
Great.
item.
Moving on to item 7, public forum.
Yes. So I don't have any speakers for public forum. I also have no hands. Well, I now had a hand raised. So we'll have 3 minutes on the clock. And we have Ms. McPherson, who is going to speak today. Unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, guys. Good morning to all of you. And it would be great if we could actually see you. We see Maurice, but we don't see you, and we see the agenda items, but it would be nice to be able to see you to see who is speaking at any given moment. I noticed that Maurice even asked who said what when. So if you could make that happen, I'm assuming this is all through Dudek. I would appreciate it.
And a clarification, it's Maris, like Paris.
Maris, thank you. And my name is McPherson, by the way, not McPherson, just as a same type of correction. Thank you.
Do you have anything else, Ms. McPherson?
Not at the moment. Thank you.
Did I see if our city attorney's online? Did you see him?
Please? Nope. Okay.
Great.
Next item, projected on the screen, please, Maris. Item 8.
Are you-
I think we're good. We're synced up.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jill Weinberger from DUDEC. I'll be presenting on the informational item. So this item 8A is a standing item that was requested, I believe, 2 board meetings ago, just for an update on any information that comes in to the county, who is the well permitting agency for well permit applications that would be in the city of Santa Monica or in the Santa Monica subbasin. And just as a standing update, this agency coordinates with the county to understand if any of those permit applications have been submitted over the quarterly period, and we bring that back to you. So this is a short item. It's just to say that the county has not notified GSA secretary of any well permit applications within the subbasin since the last meeting, which was that February 19th meeting.
Mr. President, I have a question. This is Director Natoli. Not to put shade on a fellow department, but sometimes things fall through the cracks in a big organization like the county. And so I'm wondering if we ever double check back with public health, call them to say, hey, folks, did you get any new well permit applications? Or do we just hope that public health will always let us know?
We do a double check. So I have a list of all zip codes that are under the purview of our GSA, and I send it to LA County, and they are fantastic. They will go through and double check.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have, we meet each other both ways.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We have one public comment. Ms. McPherson, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, you can hear me again?
We can.
Thank you. I have a question on the permit applications. For instance, at the school site at Playa Vista, they have had multiple instances, or rather regularly, of water inundation on their what are literally wells to de-water in order to keep the gas mitigation systems free of water. I know that they have had to put in new, and I'm wondering if that is also being covered by sending in information with regard to that to you. And just as background on this, I did get the name of the LA Regional Water Quality Control Board person that I believe it was you, Mr. Wang, that brought up. And I did contact them, and they are only working with the city of Santa Monica. They are not engaged with any of the other issues regarding the Playa Vista site. Just as an FYI. Thank you.
Eight B, which relates to the updates or edits to the new or replacement groundwater production well form. So
we've discussed this form in the context of the rescinding of Executive Order N 323 over the past two board meetings, two regular board meetings, or I guess it's three board meetings. October, January, we met briefly, and then February, just for clarification. So it was discussed at the October and the February board meeting. The background here is that the agency created a form as well as a process for well permit applicants to follow when they were applying for a well permit from the County of Los Angeles. That process was to examine whether the well that they were seeking to permit would be consistent with the GSP. And so it was a verification procedure to look at consistency with the GSP. When the executive order was rescinded, we went back to take a look at the language in both the procedure document as well as the form. Now, the procedure document does not reference the executive order in any way. It can be a standalone document that the agency is still requesting the information from these applicants to ensure that new wells are consistent with the GSP. The form, however, is a checklist that was to be submitted with the application to the county to prove at that time under the executive order that the permit applicant had coordinated with the GSA and that the GSA had given its determination of its verification of consistency back to the applicant, and the applicant could then take that to the county to receive the well permit. So that checklist does still reference the executive order. At the February meeting, we discussed whether or not to remove the checklist entirely as part of the verification procedures, or simply to remove the language referencing the executive order from that checklist. And my understanding of the conversation that ensued was that there was a question around CEQA compliance, that if the reference to the executive order is removed because the executive order is no longer in effect, and the agency went ahead and did this well permit verification consistency review with Sigma, would that be subject to CEQA? Would any action taken under that be subject to CEQA? And so my understanding of the discussion at the last meeting was that the individual members would take that question back to their CEQA attorneys for discussion, and that it would come back to this meeting with an update from the attorneys.
Are there any of the attorneys that can speak to that?
Yes, I will ask Ms. Kula to opine, and then I don't know if any of you else have attorneys that you'd like to ask. Go ahead, Susan, you can go ahead and unmute.
Yes, unfortunately, I have not had any contact with any of the other attorneys on this issue. It's probably something that we will need to follow up on with the other attorneys. Speaking only for Santa Monica, when there's just simply a consistency determination, which is a technical determination that does not involve discretion, at least in Santa Monica, we do not consider that to be a discretionary action, which would require, which would be subject to CEQA. But again, I have not had this conversation with the other attorneys. And so I think we will need to follow up. And I apologize for not being prepared today for this, but just being upfront about it.
Thank you, Ms. Kola. Are there any other attorneys online that would care to opine or in the room?
Our city attorney.
I don't have anybody's hand up.
Generally, attorneys would give their clients advice separately and not in an open meeting.
So we'll let them follow up.
Yeah, we'll let them follow up then and move on to the next item then.
Great, okay.
Perfect. So item C would be discuss basin boundary modification request.
Okay, this item is coming back just for an update from the last meeting. If we remember in the February meeting, we discussed the potential interest in modifying the basin boundaries for the Santa Monica subbasin, because currently the basin boundaries as defined by DWR do not include the primary recharge area for the basin, which is up in the hills to the north of the basin. And so the request, we discussed options for the basin boundary modification request process from DWR, but at the time we didn't, we hadn't had an opportunity to check in with DWR to see when they may be opening that process back up, because they have set time periods when they accept those requests. So the update is that we did reach out to DWR. DWR indicated that they have received inquiries from a number of basins, so they are looking into opening up another time period process for accepting basin boundary modification requests, but they don't have a firm timeline for that right now. So the update is just that we will continue to remain in contact with DWR and will inform the board when we know what DWR's timeline will be, when DWR has a timeline they're ready to announce.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Would DWR at least be willing to discuss what they would look for in an application for it? I understand they don't want to willy-nilly ad hoc have to work on basin boundary modification requests. I'm sure they're a lot of work, but could they at least provide some information on how they would process an application and what they would look for?
I can't speak for DWR. I will say that when they have opened these periods for basin boundary modification requests in the past, they've given guidelines to anyone who would request a modification on what it is that they would look for and what it is that the, how do I want to say this? The types of boundary modifications that they would be able to review. And we talked about that last time a little bit, that basically they fall into two categories, either a technical modification or a jurisdictional modification. And so they do provide detailed information when they open these application request periods. Having said that, I believe that the representative for the DWR representative for this basin would be open to a conversation. They're always open to talking about the basins that they oversee. Not speaking for DWR, but if somebody wanted to reach out, we could.
I think it would be nice for us to have that ahead of time so we could figure out ahead of time what we might need to do and be better prepared when the timeline opens. Just a thought.
There was an initial phone call, and I forgot the gentleman's name from our, it wasn't Jennifer Wong, who's our local rep, but a little bit higher up in DWR. And he had called saying, are you guys okay? This was after the fires. What do you need? And I had said, well, the things that we're going to be looking for in the future is this idea that the recharge basin is vital to the protection of our, medium priority groundwater basin. And he said, oh, absolutely. DWR would be open to talking and engaging about that. So there was an initial positive, but there were no specifics. And it was presented as this is the recharge area for the basin.
So I think we
I
can
can go back and
provide
check
you,
my
and
notes.
thank you, Dr. Gold. So that was Lizette Gold who was speaking.
Mm.
Thank you, Dr. Gold. And I think we can provide you with the previous rubric that DWR prepared for the previous rounds of basin boundary modification, which included that jurisdictional and technical criteria. We do have Mr. Markman, your attorney, who's got his hand up. So I'd like to unmute.
Hello, guys.
Can you hear me?
We can.
So I've had some very specific experience working with DWR, trying to get them to look at different basin boundaries, and neither was successful. We had a basin boundary dispute over the Orange County Water District's territory and where was the Orange County Basin. And the Orange County Basin was clearly cut out everything to the west of Brea, La Habra, that whole area. And we thought it was interconnected. La Habra wanted it to be interconnected, but they couldn't get them to change, even look at it and change it. So that was one experience. And I can also speak to this. I'm general counsel to the Borrego Springs Water Master, which was a GSA converted to an adjudication. And they have to be reviewed within certain time periods to get the characterization of being an alternative, a Sigma plan approved by DWR, which is important to get grants and funding for programs. And even on that process, DWR is probably, I'm going to say, at least a year behind what the statute says they should do. They should have reviewed this 2 years ago, and they just got it done maybe a month ago. So, and I have never heard anyone tell me that that DWR came off a designation that's locked into Bulletin 118, whether to get out into the watershed to find sources of water control or otherwise. I don't think they've ever done it. Maybe your people can verify or not verify that, but they just very stubbornly stick to Bulletin 118.
Question about if the basin boundary modification is approved, let's say, how does that impact our approved GSP? Does that have to be modified significantly? And if so, what timeline would that have or cost might be implied there?
It's a good question. This is Jill Weinberger again with DUDEC. A little bit of an unknown on the timeline. However, yes, the GFP would have to be amended to include the description of the additional parts of the basin, if the basin boundary modification were to be approved. And so that amendment, if you'll allow me for just a second, that leads into what the board will be facing later this year, which is the beginning of the preparation of the periodic evaluation for the GSP. And so a periodic evaluation is required at least every 5 years. GSP amendment is not. So the amendment will be, the need for an amendment will be evaluated under this periodic evaluation, and that would ultimately be a board decision as to whether or not the GSP needs to be amended as part of this review of the basin conditions. But I would say that if there is a significant basin boundary modification, that we, DUDEC, the consultant, would come back to recommend to the board that the board also prepare a GSP amendment.
Thank you.
It would make sense to do both at one time rather than submitting an amendment mid-term, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and I sorry, I lost my train of thought enough to not close what the loop that I had been saying, which is the periodic evaluation is a standalone document. The GSP amendment must be accompanied by a periodic evaluation. So regardless, if the basin boundary modification timeline is not opened before and a determination is not received before your first 5-year periodic evaluation is due, that periodic evaluation still has to be prepared and submitted to DWR. And then at the time that a basin boundary modification request is approved, if it's approved, then you would also need to do an amendment that is accompanied by another periodic evaluation.
Cost sharing.
Yeah, this is just an item that came back again from the last meeting just for an update. If we review the administrative cost sharing discussion, at the last meeting, I believe all member agencies except for Culver City had confirmed that the MOU on administrative cost sharing had been approved by their respective city councils or governing agencies. And that this item is just for an update from the city of Culver City on the status of the MOU approval.
Yeah, this is Director Singletary. I don't know that that's accurate. I think we took ours to our council initially. I think the confusion was the agreement that was sent out. Is the intention for that sheet to be completed internally by our attorneys and sent back to Santa Monica, or is there a DocuSign? Maybe that's a question for Susan Cola. So there was execute that document. Did any other agencies complete it?
I have an update. LA hasn't completed it yet. We still have to take that document to the board. And for us, correct me if I'm wrong, but once our board adopts it and all the signatures are on that page, once we have all the other signatures from the other agencies as well, that becomes our final approved document, essentially. So for us, at least with LA, it's I want to say 6 months out before that gets approved by our board.
Thank you.
Because I think what was discussed at the last meeting was that our respective agencies would approve the cost sharing agreement except for Culver City. Not that we necessarily had, but that we would.
We have approved it. So,
Good guys.
but yeah, the question I guess still remains: how do we complete that document? So maybe the attorneys are on an email to do that. But it has, well, I guess how did Beverly Hills or Santa Monica do it? Do you know?
I think it was a DocuSign. I'm pretty sure it was routed.
Okay, so it sounds like Culver City didn't receive that if it was DocuSign.
Okay, Ms. Cola, did you want to remind? You can go ahead and unmute.
Excuse me. I believe the secretary, Lizette, would be able to help with the DocuSign process. Is that right, Lizette?
But I'm happy to take the lead on it.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bowles. So are we clear on process? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay. So we have county and city that need to complete it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We do have a public comment if you're done with your board discussion on this item.
Yes, we're done.
Okay, Ms. McPherson, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, Patricia McPherson. Again, we can't see you, so we have no idea who is speaking at any given time to try and recognize your voice. And I would also like to add to all of you that it's really difficult to get a copy of this meeting, a video. It seems to take over a month in order to do that. It would be helpful if that could be done more quickly. But with regard to this item, I don't understand where you are at all with this process, because as I recall, at the last couple of meetings, the discussion was about an MOU not being appropriate, instead to actually have a JPA, and which of you would go along with having a JPA for shared costs, so on and so forth. Because the JPA, or at least a memorandum of agreement, is the only way that we would be able to retrieve, for instance, Public Record Act requests. As of now, we still have to go to each and every individual city to try and elicit information. This is not an agency per se that one can come to as a total being, as it was described by DWR to be, for us to retrieve information. And this becomes part of the confusion. I just heard you say, are we clear on the process? And the answer was yes. And yet this is so different than the last couple of meetings where this has been being discussed, and how to share costs and get back onto a JPA. or at least a memorandum of agreement, as a MOU, a memorandum of understanding, is not a legally binding agreement. I know Ms. Natoli has stated that she believes it is, but according to everything we've researched and provided, it is not. And it was Ms. Natoli that asked for having a JPA, which Ms. Cola many, many meetings ago said, yeah, we should have created a JPA to begin with. And I'm also wondering your process in these meetings as I raise the issue of how do we, for instance, the Playa Vista site having new wells. I never had an answer to that question. Are we only allowed as the public to ask something and expect to not have a response? I'm not clear on that either. Please respond. Thank you.
We do have an MOA, so I would like to state that this is a legally recognized GSA. And we are discussing cost sharing. So any other questions on items that are germane to this agenda item?
Great. Moving on to item 8E, updates on coordination with USGS regarding monitoring well locations.
My apologies on that. There were, item 8E, that item was actually stricken from the agenda. It's in your board packet agenda. It is not in the agenda that was published online, and so we are skipping that item.
I apologize.
Yeah, no, that's my apologies. That was a confusion on our part. So the public agenda, item 8E, is the
Yes.
Playa Vista dewatering wells.
Perfect. Let's move on to that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so this topic came up at the February meeting in regards to a discussion of the well metering ordinance that was considered at that meeting and will be considered again later in this meeting. And the question was really around how the well metering ordinance interacts with existing dewatering wells at the Playa Vista site. And just for clarification, those Playa Vista dewatering wells are permitted by the Los Angeles Regional Water Quality Control Board under the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, right, NPDES program. And so those wells are permitted and controlled by the LA Regional Board. So the well metering ordinance that we are discussing is where the GSA would have jurisdiction to permit wells, which is not over the LA Regional Board's permitting process. And sorry, if I said permit wells, what I should say is to meter wells, just to clarify. It's the jurisdiction that the GSA would have to meter wells. The GSA does not have jurisdiction to permit wells.
Board questions? Item. I will ask Ms. McPherson to unmute, and Ms. McPherson, please ensure that your comment is germane to this item, which is the Playa Vista dewatering wells.
Patricia McPherson, Grassroots Coalition. Can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you.
Well, number one, I object to you saying it has to be germane. I have been germane on everything that I've offered thus far, but I've not had responses to. The GSA, is it going to be inculcating the metering that is done for LA Regional Water Quality Control Board and for this basin to understand what are the volumes coming from LA Regional Water Quality Control Board? But additionally, Playa Vista has a gas mitigation system that has nothing to do with LA Regional Water Quality Control Board, that they also have to dewater in order to keep the groundwater, which is at or near the surface, at least 1 foot below the gas intake systems. All that information comes from the Department of Sanitation. So that still needs to be reviewed and be a part of all of the ongoing dewatering that is happening through the Playa Vista site also. And I would like to know, backtracking, I wasn't able to ask, is the MOA, when did that happen? We
That's
are
no
not
longer the
aware of
item.
that.
I'm sorry, Ms.
Please don't interrupt me when I'm asking.
Our next public speaker is Chantel Johnson. Go ahead and unmute yourself, please. Go ahead and unmute yourself. There you go.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I am a resident of the Fountain Park Apartments that's actually at Playa Vista. And I've learned that the Fountain Park Apartments are in a level 3 methane concentration zone, which requires the strictest, most extensive methane gas mitigation requirements because it's a highly explosive gas, which can ignite in concentrations of 5 and 15%. Currently, the Fountain Park Apartments lack a properly functioning methane detection and mitigation system under the foundation of the property, and it fails to comply with the required Playa Vista methane prevention detection and monitoring program. I'm sorry for the raspiness of my voice because I actually have pneumonia. These gases have affected me to this point. Critical to this proper functioning is dewatering because it keeps the gas pipes from clogging and becoming inoperable. Yet there also appears to be no mandated monitoring for this either to determine if dewatering is even occurring. The gas leaks at Playa Vista were determined to transport carcinogenic and toxic gases, including BTEX chemicals and hydrogen sulfide. Over the past 2 decades, which the Playa Vista development has existed, the residents have never been made aware of these dangerous gases. Because of this, there is current, active, and ongoing litigation regarding these dangers to the thousands of residents in the Fountain Park Apartments and the Playa Vista community. Residents have died here at the Fountain Park Apartments, and so many others are sick, such as myself, and others that have no knowledge as to why. Because the Fountain Park Apartments are in Playa Vista, this also includes the Playa Vista Elementary School, where my grandchildren attend. I have since learned that there are other gases like the SoCal reservoir gas leakages that heighten the threat of added gases moving up dip into the Playa Vista with their wells. The residents in the Fountain Park Apartments and Playa Vista community are not aware of all of these dangers. And the Santa Monica Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency, as I have mentioned to the California Coastal Commission, the LA Regional Quality Control Board, and many others, I believe owe some form of a duty to the thousands of lives at risk in this community to notify the community. Thank you so much for this opportunity and allowing me to speak.
The Groundwater Sustainability Agency is required to submit an annual report documenting groundwater conditions in the Santa Monica subbasin, and that goes into DWR. This is the annual report discussion for water year 2024, just to be clear. We speak in water years in the hydrogeologic world. So that is the time period that covers October 2023 through September of 2024. That annual report was due to DWR at the end of March of this year. So this is an update for the board on the contents of that report. It was submitted on time to DWR. And it, as I said before, it covers water year 2024, so October 2023 through September 2024. The key factors influencing the groundwater conditions in the subbasin really are the Santa Monica production wells, as well as background precipitation that contributes recharge to the subbasin. Production wells were offline for much of the water year. They were offline during the ongoing construction of the Olympic well field restoration and Arcadia water treatment plant expansion project. And with those wells being offline, what that meant for water levels in the basin, which is one indicator of sustainability, is that those groundwater elevations or groundwater levels were similar to or higher than they were in the previous water year. That is a good thing when we're talking about groundwater sustainability. We have defined in the GSP a level at which groundwater elevations, if they fell to that, the basin may experience undesirable results. We're nowhere close to that. Water levels have actually risen. So that is a positive thing, indicating sustainability. Similarly, the groundwater, because those groundwater elevations have risen, groundwater in storage also increased in water year 2024. It's like having more water in your bank account so that you can withdraw that water in times of need, as long as it continues to be replenished and maintains a certain level, you will be fine in the future. So groundwater and storage increased, groundwater elevations were similar to or higher than they were in the previous water year. Chloride concentrations, that is another indicator of sustainability in this subbasin. If there is seawater intrusion going into the fresh groundwater, you will see chloride concentrations increase. We've discussed at previous meetings the ongoing need to actually have additional wells closer to the coast to monitor for potential seawater intrusion. But right now, with the monitoring network that we have, chloride concentrations are measured at the city of Santa Monica's Charnock well field. And those chloride concentrations were all below the measurable objective. So when we're talking about groundwater elevations, we want them to be higher than the measurable objective. When we're talking about chloride concentrations, we want them to be lower than the measurable objective, and they were lower than the measurable objective in water year 2024. So the last part of the annual report is an update for DWR on the progress of GSP implementation. So I'm just going to walk through a couple of the data sets. I'm not going to walk through all of the groundwater elevation data, but I will show you just in the context initially of the precipitation that was received. That's what is shown on this chart. Precipitation is in the bars, and this is a chart going back to 1964 through 2024. The bars are color-coded to water year type, with the green bars being wet water years, or water years in which the precipitation was over 150% of the mean, the average annual precipitation. The average annual precipitation at this particular station is about 17 inches, a little over 17 inches a year. In water year 2024, the subbasin, or this precipitation gauge at least, received over 31 inches of precipitation for the water year. So that was positive. The previous water year was also a very wet water year. This graph that we show is that gray line that kind of overlays everything else. And that is a measure of whether or not the basin, whether or not the hydrologic cycle, the surface precipitation, is going through a period of drought or surplus. When that gray line is trending up, there is surplus. When the gray line is trending down, there is drought. And so you'll see that whenever we have periods where those precipitation bars are low, that gray line trends down. And when those precipitation bars are high, the gray line trends up. So the past few years have been a nice recovery for overall precipitation in the basin. We know this water year that we're in right now has not been as wet. And so I would expect when we come back with this report next year that we'll have a below average water year for the local basin. But that puts the context, that's just to provide the context for the discussion of what's happening and being observed in the basin conditions. I will show you, because chloride concentrations are important, a measure of sustainability in this subbasin. I'm going to zoom in on the historical chloride concentrations measured at the Charnock well field. The long-term historical concentrations are shown in the overall graph going back to the 1980s. And then you'll see that more recently, since 2018, there's been a higher density, higher concentration of, let me rephrase that, a higher density of sampling, right? The sampling has occurred more frequently, so more densely spaced data points. So we zoom in on that more recent time period, and that's shown in the zoom box kind of up above the graph there. And what we see here is that the recent chloride concentrations, those measured in 2024, 2023, are all within the historical average. There's no long-term trend in chloride concentration that would indicate seawater intrusion, at least in this part of the basin. Again, there's been a lot of discussion of needing additional monitoring farther west. On to the discussion of implementation activities. Some of these are carried over from the previous annual report. So there's ongoing work on the Sustainable Water Infrastructure Project Advanced Water Treatment Facility that'll contribute recharge to the Olympic well field, anticipated starting this year, which is exciting. The Olympic well field restoration and Arcadia water treatment plant expansion project has ongoing construction during water year 2024. There was construction of a second, there is construction of a second recharge well near the Olympic well field that's expected to be completed in 2026. There was monitoring well coordination with the USGS that this board heard about at the past meeting. Preparation of a draft groundwater metering ordinance, the template that's come before the board. And there's ongoing planning for development of a salt nutrient management plan in the basin. So that's the update on implementation efforts that was provided to DWR with this annual report. And that's my presentation to the board on the annual report.
Thank you. Is there any discussion from board members? Sorry.
We do have public comment. President Wynn, Patricia McPherson, would you please unmute yourself?
Patricia McPherson, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can barely hear you.
Can you hear me now?
With regard to the 2024 annual report, I now don't expect an answer, but I am hoping that it is posted. But from what Ms. Weinberger has displayed so far, I see no information regarding the lower portion of the basin. The DWR has acknowledged Bionah wetlands as a groundwater dependent ecosystem and acknowledged numerous things that need to be accounted for that this group does not account for at this time from what I have seen on your 2024 plan. The water that is taken also from the LA Regional Water Quality Control Board, are you monitoring the volumes? Are you getting any information from them with regard to the volumes, which are also thrown out to sea as they are sent into the riparian corridor through the freshwater marsh and then thrown out to sea? This is lowering the groundwater, and we need to have the recharge also for Bionah wetlands as a groundwater dependent ecosystem. The city of Santa Monica's production wells are not the only groundwater dewatering that is ongoing. And as a sidebar, the golf courses in Santa Monica, you guys have looked at every single drop that they take away, and yet there is no attention being paid to what is ongoing in the southern portion of the basin. So we will also be contacting DWR to try and figure out what it is that is happening here and why this is continuing to be left out. No one disputes the fact that the water board is dealing with the Howard Hughes cleanup issues, but you are not dealing with the dewatering that is ongoing from the Department of Sanitation for all of the dewatering wells for the gas mitigation systems. This is a problem, and it's a problem that we can't see this group at all. we don't know who from you is speaking at any given moment, and
I'm sorry, you have strayed from the agenda item. Thank you. Next item?
Next item, action items, item 9A, approve groundwater extraction ordinance template.
So this is coming back to this group for approval this time of the groundwater extraction ordinance template. The group has had a chance to review the template and edit it. And so I believe the draft copy of that is in the board packet, and we're looking for a discussion from the board on approval.
This is Director Chair Nguyen. Just a refresher, this one is it's not the GSA adopting an ordinance. This is a template for member agencies to adopt at their discretion that the GSA is approving as far as template to form.
That's correct.
Great, thank you. Any discussion from board members on this item? Any motions to approve?
This is Director Natoli. I move that we approve the draft template. Oh, do we have any speakers for this?
I do not have any hands up. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
I move that we approve the template as currently presented.
Chair Nguyen, I second.
Okay, roll call vote, please. So Director Singletary?
Yes.
Okay, Director Welsh?
Yes.
Director Natoli?
Aye.
Vice President Dishman?
Yes.
President Lynn?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now to item 9B, vote on formation of an ad hoc subcommittee to discuss alternative governance structures.
I don't have much of an introduction to this. I believe this was discussed at the previous meeting in regards to investigating, as it says, alternative governance structures for this agency. And I believe this is primarily a board discussion and vote on forming an ad hoc subcommittee to look into that.
Natoli, I believe an ad hoc subcommittee is necessary for us to evaluate at a member level what governance structure might work for our agency. And
This matter.
So Director Welch, City of Beverly Hills. So as mentioned before, the city identified the MOU process as a preferred.
Apologies, we can't hear you on the Zoom. It cut out. The audio cut out.
Yeah, Director Welsh is speaking. Can you hear him?
Yes, it would be helpful if he repeated his comment from the start, because we lost him after the first sentence.
So the city has seen the MOU process as the preferred process for the GSA. However, if there were to be another alternative recommended, I would have to take that forward to our city council for consideration.
I have a question. Director Dishlow, given that the board needs to unanimously vote on or approve anything, right? Having a smaller subsection of the board discuss something. Be on board or approve it, like, I guess I'm a little unclear on what that helps us achieve versus having a public discussion amongst all of us, just given the reality is that it has to be unanimous.
And apologies again, the audio is cutting in and out a little bit. So
But
perhaps.
I will try again louder. This
Thank
is
you.
Director Dishlip. My question was really about, given that this board needs unanimous 100% vote approval for any item or change, I was questioning the value of a ad hoc smaller subcommittee to discuss or try to work through an issue. Normally, I've done ad hoc committees where, right, you are trying to come to a consensus amongst, right, that you think a majority of governing body could get behind, but given that this needs to be an 100% approved item, is the one to understand the value of the ad hoc versus having the discussions amongst all member bodies, because we could, as an ad hoc, come to an understanding or proposal, but if any one of us that is not on the ad hoc is not on board, the answer is immediately no. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
This is Director Natoli. I would propose that a subcommittee might be able to, as it would be a discussion among at least two board members. It would give us the opportunity to evaluate for ourselves different options and maybe take a different approach to evaluating where we might go as an agency. And then naturally, the subcommittee would come back with any proposals, if any, to the full board for discussion and perhaps any decision on it. But that since we have reached an impasse,
Apologies, Chair Natoli, we lost you on the Zoom. Right after you said impasse.
whether we should move forward with any changes to the structure, that the alternative is we need to find a different approach to discussing how to move forward, or if to move forward, or whether to move forward with changes to the agency to make it more productive and effective and efficient. And this is just an alternative because nothing else has worked so far. Has any power to do anything other than talk and come up with some ideas.
That question, so if a ad hoc subcommittee is formed, that would also be subject to Brown Act, right? So
Not an ad hoc subcommittee.
not an ad hoc, I see.
If it were a standing subcommittee.
Even if it was more than 3 members?
It couldn't.
Oh, it couldn't.
Couldn't be more than 3
It
members.
can't
Couldn't
be.
be,
So it
it
has to be
couldn't
only
be 3. It couldn't be 3 because that's
That's
A quorum.
That's
quorum,
a
right?
quorum,
So it
yes.
only has 2 max. Okay. got it.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, speaking from the city of LA, similar to the city of Beverly Hills, we are comfortable. We felt that the current process is appropriate and on board with the existing process. So
I'm sorry, you're just confirming that the current government's
the
structure.
current government structure is
Sorry, we lost audio after current government structure.
acceptable to the current governance structure. And my question then would be, if we were to form an ad hoc Committee Chair, Director Natoli has volunteered to join. Are there any other board members that would participate?
This is Director Singletary. If my recollection is correct, was it Santa Monica and County that were sort of more in support of a JPA structure? Would it make sense for those two agencies to, if a subcommittee is to be approved, to do that research and present it to the group and see if it's something worth bringing to our respective agencies?
Totally, if I could just insert real quickly, even if this goes nowhere, it's something, it doesn't cost us, and that's in quotations, it doesn't cost us anything to have some discussions. Thank you.
That's the case. Was myself as an alternative,
But you can
right?
propose the city.
The city? Okay. Well, then I will apologize to Sunny later. Volunteering him for another subcommittee, but if it's just the two of us having conversations on other options, again, it doesn't seem based on everything else that there's anything else, but happy to volunteer Sunny to have more conversation. So I will volunteer Santa Monica to take the other spot in the ad hoc subcommittee.
Great, so do we have a motion? I'm sorry, public comment. Is there any further discussion before we go to public comment? Okay. So, Patricia McPherson?
Patricia McPherson, Grassroots Coalition again. I would say at least half of that we were unable to hear, which is a problem I'd like to know, was this actually recorded that we might be able to even listen to what you say later?
Yes. Yes, it is recorded.
I get that, but what it keeps going in and out. Will the full recording be available is my ask, but also earlier in the meeting, it was stated when I was asking about the MOU, the GPA or MOA, I was told that please let me.
This is about the governance structure. I'm under no obligation to let you finish when your item is not germane. We are talking about an alternative to a current governance structure. So if you have comments on an ad hoc subcommittee, please refrain from making anything else public other than your comments on the ad hoc subcommittee structure. You are able to speak.
Patricia McPherson, Grassroots. Earlier, you had said that there was a memorandum of agreement. To our knowledge, there is no memorandum of agreement. There was only an MOU, which is why this 9B apparently is what is being discussed here. Can you?
Or any further public comments on this item?
There are no further public comments.
Any motion?
This is Director Natoli. I move that the board establish an ad hoc subcommittee comprised of the County of Los Angeles and the City of Santa Monica to discuss potential governance structures for the agency.
I second.
Thank
Director
you,
Dishlet.
Director Dishlet. Director Singletary.
Aye.
Director Welsh.
Yes.
Director Natoli.
Aye.
Vice President Dishlet
Yes.
and President Wynn.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Great. Thank you. Now move on to item number 10, solicitation of items to be discussed at the next regular board meeting. Hearing none. Move on to item number 11, adjournment. It is now 10:10 a.m. Thank you everyone for participating and joining in the Santa Monica GSA meeting for April.
Thank you very much.